What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel for another One Fight Night preview. Today we are talking about One Fight Night 23 that goes down on July 5th from Lumpinee Stadium in Bangkok, of course. Feels like it's been a while since we've done one of these because we had one 167 at the start of June, and here we are in July for the Fight Night card for this month as we get into a big period for one championship with some major events coming up, of course. Now that this card did go through a little bit of change, I didn't end up covering that because I believe the news came out the same week as the Atlanta card. Or potentially something to do with 1167. I don't remember. There was a reason why I didn't do a video on it. I just didn't have time, as I didn't have time to do a video last week either. So it has been a little while. Anyway, I'm beating around the bush here. The original main event for this card was Anissa Mexim returning to take on Jackie Buntan for the, I guess, the inaugural, right? Yeah, because it was a vacant title, the strawweight kickboxing title. The fight unfortunately fell off. I believe Jackie got injured, and that is why that isn't happening anymore. And so we do have a new main event for this card. But as always, we will look at the card from top to bottom. Let me pull up the card graphic for you here on One Championship's Instagram, so that we can have a little bit of a talk through it, but at least you can see which fights I am talking about when I speak about them. As a UK fight fan, I am of course excited for this first fight of the night to watch Stefan Karody do his thing. So definitely worth tuning in for that, I think. And I think that this card benefits from having one of the biggest names on the card in the second fight of the night, despite it being a bit of a strange one that I didn't see coming. And that is Umar Rugrug Kane competing in heavyweight kickboxing against, I could be butchering this name, but I don't know. Boucher Ketchup, which is not his real name. I believe that is his nickname. These two have been going back and forth on social media. I believe obviously they're both from Senegal, I believe it is, and both kind of have big followings on social media because of their wrestling backgrounds. And I believe that this stemmed from when Rugrug was announced to be fighting Anatoly Malakin in Atlanta in November for the heavyweight title. There was kind of a little bit of back and forth between these guys on social media. I don't remember seeing it at the time, so I'm not super familiar with where this stemmed from or what exactly was said, but they're going to fight in heavyweight kickboxing this week out of nowhere. So like I said, I'm not, expecting tons from this fight. And of course, it is a little bit of a risky one. Not that I think, anything crazy is going to happen, but, there is a good chance that Rugrug could not only lose this fight, but it's heavyweight kickboxing. He could get stopped. And then how does that impact the Malakin fight? I don't know. But like I said, Rugrug in the second fight of the night. So it's a decent reason to tune in from that alone. Again, as a UK fight fan, I'm excited to watch Ellis Barboza get back in there and take on Elif. That should be a very, very good fight. So I would definitely, whilst the top of the card is where it's at for the fights we're going to spend the most time talking about, right? The most exciting ones. The striking contests on here, that strawweight Muay Thai bout between Leaf and Ellis Barboza, and then Ali Saldoya versus Black Panther, both definitely worth tuning into. And of course, either side of those, we do have two MMA contests. I say either side. Yeah, I was getting confused looking at the card graphic for a second then. You've got bout number 4, strawweight MMA contest between the top 5 ranked Hiroba Minowa taking on Jeremy Miado. Both these guys are on 3-fight losing streaks, which is kind of crazy to say because Hiroba had a great start to life in one championship. He won back-to-back fights. And Jeremy Miado was putting a run together right until he came up against Mansur Malachiev, who debuted and submitted him with relative ease. And then since then, Lito Adiwan got revenge over him. And then he lost last time out to Kato Yamakita, who looks to be a serious player in this division. Minowa also fought on that card in Japan, where he was beaten by Gustavo Ballart, who is now going to fight for the interim title against Jared Brooks. So, none of these guys have had like losses where I'm like, I don't know if they can compete in this division. I don't know whether they could compete with the very top guys in this division at this stage. But, is this a little bit of a loser leaves town kind of fight? I wouldn't go that far, maybe, because of course they'll be on a 4-fight losing streak. But the thing is, with these MMA divisions in one, the top guys pretty much only fight other top guys, right? So you really do get a little bit of like a round robin in some of these divisions. I think strawweight in particular, you have that because you have Joshua Pasio and Jared Brooks right at the very top. Then you kind of have like the level I would say below them, guys that can all beat each other on different nights, right? Balart being one of them. Bokang I would put probably in that mix. Yamakita could be in that mix. We'll find that out. But either way, I don't think that. Yeah, it's a weird one. It'll be a 3-fight losing streak, but I don't expect either of them to leave one championship necessarily after a loss. But of course, a very very important fight for both men. And you have got Tatsumitsu Wada taking on. Going to butcher this name. Jaiwei. I apologize if I got that wrong, but still, tune into that one. And if you're not going to tune in, if so far nothing I have said is making you want to tune in for this card, enter the chef, Luke Lisi. One of my favorite fighters on the One Championship roster. He's had 2 fights now in the featherweight Muay Thai division. His debut against Joe Nato was probably the best fight in One Championship of last year. And then his fight against Eddie Abasolo this year is right up there with fight of the year contenders for the year so far. My head goes to Haggerty and Lobo as well as maybe the other one that could rival it. But Luke Lisi's fights have been absolutely fantastic. I'm a huge fan of watching this guy. I did actually speak to him this past week. You can go check out that interview over at Violent Money TV. It was great to catch up with the chef for the first time. And he's going to be taking on Bampara Kuyate, who won his debut fight in One Championship, I do believe. Let me just double check that to make sure that I'm not getting that wrong. No, he lost One Fight Night 15. My apologies. He lost a unanimous decision on that night. I would expect Luke to get the win here. I don't particularly remember Kuyate's debut fight super well, but Luke has proven, even the fight against Smoking Joe, I know that Smoking Joe got the win, but it was a great fight. And then I do really rate Eddie Abasolo, and he was able to get a split decision win there. So I would expect Luke to come through on this occasion. All right, well, there's probably going to be a little bit of a weird edit there because I got a phone call that I could not ignore. But let's get back to One Fight Night 23. Bout number 8 is in the heavyweight division. You've got Kang Ji-won taking on Kirill Grushenko. It's been a while since we've seen Grushenko. Of course, is coming off of back-to-back losses to Anatoly Malikin and Buchecha. So not bad losses at all. That last loss came against Buchecha at one on Prime Video 1, so August of 2022. Meanwhile, Kang Ji-won has been a lot more active. In that time, he did rebound with a win at One Fight Night 18 at the start of the year after a loss to Ben Tainan last year at One Fight Night 16. I know for a fact that Grushenko has been working a lot during his time away. He hasn't been sitting on the sofa. It can be easy to forget that Grushenko is quite new to MMA still. I believe he started training in 2022, obviously came in with a wrestling background, and he's been working a lot on his boxing. So I'd be interested to see how much he uses it in this fight, because of course standing with Kang Ji-won is a dangerous prospect indeed. But of course, if Grushenko can use his hands in order to set up the takedowns, that will give him a lot better chance of winning. I would expect Grushenko to get the win. Like I said, if you're coming up against Kang Ji-won, he's got a better chance against people that are going to be more willing to strike with him and not able to get him to the ground. I think Grushenko will be able to get takedowns, and I think he wins the fight from there. Bout number 9, we've got a catchweight submission grappling contest, and I'm not really sure why it's a catchweight. It's at 186 pounds, which is obviously very close to the weight that Tairu Atolo is the champion of as the welterweight submission grappling world champion. So I don't know why the title isn't on the line. I would expect maybe it's something to do with Joseph Chen, who's going to be his opponent in this contest. Maybe he hasn't signed a multiple fight deal. And so that's why this is a catchweight instead of the title being on the line. Because obviously if Joseph Chen wins the belt and then disappears, it's kind of a problem for one. I'm not too sure what the reasoning is there. But if you're a submission grappling fan, then this is an exciting one. Of course, one fan's going to be super familiar at this point with Tyro Tolo, but it's easy to forget just how young he is. Like, he is still, both him and Cade are still grappling prodigies. And I say that not because they have tons of potential that isn't realized yet. They have already realized it. They are world champions. They have done all these incredible things, but they are still so young. Joseph Chen is very much the same, but a few years earlier on in his career. Let me just double check how old Joseph actually is, because I have forgotten. 19 years old. Really started to make some impressions on the grappling scene a couple of years ago. He works with the B team, that is Craig Jones's team out of Texas, I believe it is. So very, very established name in the grappling world at this point, despite being so young. And I'm super excited to see how he gets on against Ty Ruotolo, because we know how good the Ruotolo brothers are at this point. And this is, I would have preferred if it was a title match, of course, but in terms of the skill level, finding opponents that are actually worthy of competing against one's world champions, Joseph Chen is a fantastic shout to come in and face Ty Ruotolo, and I'm sure that this is one that both these guys are super excited for. So I'm looking forward to that one. And the co-main event is probably the fight I am looking forward to the most. It is a bantamweight Muay Thai contest, potentially a number one contenders title contest as well, between the King of the North, Nico Carrillo, taking on Simon Pett. Of course, a veteran contender of this division at this point, has kind of alternated wins and losses for the most part for quite some time now. And when I say alternating, I don't mean like constantly win loss, but definitely like, 2 wins and then a loss, and then a win and a loss, and then 2 wins and another loss. Like, he really has kind of struggled to gain some serious momentum. And I think that does partly come from an issue with beating the top guys in this weight class. And I think that Nico might be one of those guys. Of course, immediately the big talking point with this fight is Nico is incredibly powerful, incredibly physical, such a big guy for this weight class. And Simon Pett tends to struggle, certainly in the. I know that he did end up beating Muhammad Yunus Raba in the rematch, but the first fight with Yunus Raba, he really, really struggled with how aggressive Yunus Raba was, and that kind of is the downfall of Simon Pett in some of his losses, is that he is great when he is the hammer and not so good when he is the nail. And I feel like Nico Carrillo is just going to be too big, too powerful for him in this fight. But it's a tough fight still, because, like I said, when Simon Pett is the one pushing the action, he is so dangerous, and so high level, so experienced. And of course, this is just Nico's fourth fight in one championship. But the fight against Nongo, whilst Nongo had his moments against Nico, which is not necessarily a criticism on Nico. We're talking about Nongo here, but he proved that he can be patient and that he doesn't necessarily need to win every round in order to win the fight, because he can finish you if he catches you. And I think that is what will probably happen here, to set Nico up to challenge for the world title in the near future, which is a very exciting prospect indeed. In the main event, again, your replacement main event, this fight was originally set to be 3 rounds in the lightweight division, and that is now the 5-round main event for the interim title. You have got former champion Okra Yoon taking on the debuting undefeated Alibeg Razulov. I don't know much about Razulov. I know that he is undefeated. I know that he is a grappling specialist. And so immediately you've got the idea of this matchup, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, his striking could end up surprising me and being better than I'm assuming that it is. And he does have a very, very impressive record, at least in terms of on paper, without watching the performances and without knowing too much about the opponents that he's been facing and their caliber. It certainly looks impressive. But I would imagine, it's a safe bet to go with Okra Yoon in this fight. Of course, he is the former lightweight champion. He beat Christian Lee in that controversial upset, and then Christian Lee won the title back off of him. Oak did rebound last year at One Fight Night 10 with a win to put himself back into title contention. I think that Oak will get the win here, and set up a trilogy fight with Christian Lee, which would be very, very exciting indeed. But yeah, the big test is whether Razulov can take him down, right? Everyone knows that Oak's best skill set is his striking. So whether Razulov can take him down, I'm not too sure. Like I said, I'm going for the safe bet in picking Oak here. But what an opportunity for Alibeg Razulov. I mean, just to come in and debut in one championship against Oak is huge anyway. But now he could win the interim title and set up a fight with Christian Lee that would be absolutely huge. So I'm excited for this fight. I'm excited for the implications of this fight, what happens after this. I would say your must-watch fight would be the co-main event, Luke Lisi versus Kayate. I'm excited for Tyru Turlo versus Joseph Chen. I know that I'm usually in the minority when it comes to the submission grappling, so I won't go that far. But yeah, really, really strong card and a couple of my favorites on the roster in action here. So excited to see this one go down in Lumpinee Stadium. It will be live at US prime time. Or if, like me, you're in the UK, it will be on the early hours of Saturday morning for you, so you can take all the action in via Sky Sports or Prime Video or wherever you are in the world. Thank you for checking out this video. I will see you all very, very soon, I am sure. But until then, if I don't see you before, enjoy the fights.